Felicia. I love going to festivals. I have to go to at least 5 festivals a year with my band, with my friends. I take a party bus. We go out there. We have a great time.
I'm Brendan. I'm from Cincinnati. I'm single. I'm loving my Tinder game. I'm really comfortable with where I'm at right now, but I love adventures. Really excited to be here.
Hi, my name's Brielle. I'm in college at the University of Louisville. I work hard, but I play really hard too, because it's college, right? YOLO.
So, good afternoon. These are millennials, and perhaps most appropriately, if we seem out of breath, we just ran back from the hotel after learning we were in the finals. So is the life of a millennial, always on the go, never knowing what's next. But what is so important about millennials? When we read through the case, and when we talked on Friday with the Kentucky Speedway, the one thing that was evident to us was they were missing millennials. So we said, okay, well, what do millennials like to do? Interestingly enough, they like going to big events, being part of something, and being in a social atmosphere, which struck us as odd, if not bizarre. The fact that those interests are the strengths of NASCAR, correct? But yet, evidently, with the available ticketing inventory, there is a disconnect between the strength of this demographic and who the Kentucky Speedway is attracting. So our team was tasked with increasing ticket sales, enhancing the fan experience, and improving media ratings. All for the sole purpose of what? Increasing revenue. So who are we? We're BEAMS. That stands for Business Excellence, Academics, and the Modernization of Sports. I'm Luke Mohammed, it's Brielle Buckler, Brendan Riley, and Felicia Douglas. And this is what we do. So what we're going to do is we're going to walk through our thought process, our strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, threats, and then we're going to dive into this demographic. Who are millennials? What do they do? And why are they not attending racing events? First, we'll jump in to the SWAT. And our strengths, first one's the obvious one, the bumpy track. Everyone loves the bumpy track, but there's a caveat. It's only significant to someone who understands auto racing. And millennials, traditionally, do not. Free parking, a great strength. Centralized location, great for targeting a demographic. 3 medium to large sized cities, all surrounding the track. About the weaknesses. Events for younger fans. What is there for the millennial? Evidently, something is missing, or they would be at the track. Declining attendance, as we saw, and no permanent LED screen, not really targeting the technology. So where are our opportunities? How are we going to increase revenue? Millennials. Let me harp on this one for a little bit. Why are millennials more significant than a 45-year-old? They're both one butt in a seat. They're both probably bringing the same revenue to the table. Here's what's interesting. Statistics show that it is directly correlated. What your parents watched while you grew up is what you watch. And it makes sense, right? If you grew up and your parents watched the Cincinnati Bengals, you're probably a Bengals fan. But yet, I'm a millennial. My parents watch NASCAR, but yet I don't. So either the data's lying to us, or something happened. And what happened was my generation evolved. We don't consume sport the way our parents did. And while we evolved, the sport did not. The sport did not evolve, and we moved on. What's scariest about this is if you fail to reach us, to reach me, you're going to fail to reach my son and my daughter. Because if I'm not watching NASCAR, if I'm not attending the Kentucky Speedway, they most likely will not. But what we're here to do today, there's a way to catch us. You can save us. We're not gone forever. And we believe our plan is going to do that. It's going to attract millennials through what we know they like and tie them in to auto racing. We've broken millennials into a couple categories. One is festival attendees, another is college students, and the threats, the aging demographic as we spoke of, the in-home experience. Is it better to watch at home than at the track? And the economy. I'm going to turn over to Felicia now, and what she has done in 24 hours is astounding. She truly understands the millennials, who they are, what they do, and most importantly, what we have to do to get them attend auto racing.
Thank you, Lou. So millennials are from the age range of 18 to 33. Okay, but what's interesting about millennials is they're already diverse. According to the Pew Research, 43% of millennials don't identify with white. 51% of their offspring are non-white and non-Hispanic. So, what we did was we separated the millennials demographic into 3 different sub-segments. The first subsegment was college students. College students are from the age range of 18 to 23. And what's interesting is in Cincinnati and Kentucky and Ohio, you have about 100,000 college students accessible to you all. From the University of Kentucky, University of Cincinnati, University of Louisville, Xavier University, that's 100,000 students that you can reach. So, what do students like to do? They like to drink. 73% of students drink occasionally, according to Pew Research. Now, at the University of Kentucky, they love drinking, and so they've started a campaign on Facebook of the wetter, the better. They're trying to get it to become a wet campus. At the University of Cincinnati, they've actually embraced that students like to drink, so it's a wet campus, and 53% of them say that 53% of the students drink every weekend. Okay? So why do they drink? And why are they drinking? Is because they like to be social. They want to go out there, they want to have fun, they want to experience new friends, new atmospheres. They just want to be happy. So, the next demographic that we came across was festival attendees. Festival attendees go from the age of 25 to 35. 1 out of every 10 Americans attend festivals. But 1 out of every 5 millennials attended a festival just last year. So, what do festival attendees like? They like being social, they're culturally and ethnically diverse, and they're affluent. They make about $50,000 a year. So, what is another thing that festival attendees like? They are extremely brand loyal. Festivals are very brand oriented, okay? Festivals, whenever it's branded technology or branded activations, this is what festival attendees like. The next demographic that we saw was singles. Brendan over there, single, around the range of 18 to 45. It's a little high in the numbers, but it still fits our demographic. Why? Because millennials are getting married at a later age. So for women, they usually get married around 27 and men around 29. So let's average that at about 28 years old that millennials are getting married. That's a huge decline from the 1960s. 40% to be exact. So 40% are no longer getting married. Why? Because they do not like commitment. They want to explore. They want to see what's out there. They want to use apps. They want to use social media. They want to mingle with everybody else around them. And so social media web apps like ChristianMingle.com, Tinder, Match.com, those are the websites that are attracting single millennials. So we talked a little bit about social media or social apps. Remember that there's about 2,500 dating apps out there right now, and every year about 1,000 are added. So we talked about social media. Brielle, if you could just talk to us a little bit more about social media and how we're going to attract our millennials.
Absolutely, thanks, Jessica. So millennials are changing the way that we communicate. Take into consideration this. Over 75% of millennials have at least one active social media account, and they are more than willing to share their opinions about anything with just about anyone, strangers, companies, family, and friends. This presents a huge opportunity and a great advantage for us and the Kentucky Speedway. And why? Because we can capture this market through a different way to reach them. So if we're taking into consideration the number of people that are on social media, and we're taking into consideration the people that we want to reach, and those two populations coincide, it seems a natural fit to go after our target market using the method that they deem the most appropriate to communicate with each other and the rest of the world. In order to strategize about how best to market for the 2015 and 2016 season, the first thing we wanted to do was say, how can we target this communication that they wanted to use. So we used a hashtag start to finish. Now, when you think about this, what is the start of their journey? And where is the finish? The start is at the purchase of the ticket, or before that, when they're learning about this event, when they're postulating about what kind of things they might find there, when they're talking to their friends and peers, when they're trusting online reviews, when they're doing research, finding out what is in store for them. That's really the start. And what's the finish? When they get to the event? No. The finish never really gets there, you know? You're sharing after the event. You're telling your friends about that experience afterward. You're encouraging the next round of attendees. So by utilizing the hashtag start to finish, we can follow the journey, and Kentucky Speedway can follow the journey of these attendees, of these new consumers, from start to finish. And wherever that start and wherever that finish is, we can take that journey with them. Now, the way that we're marketing this is with Finish Fest. Finish Fest is a way to integrate the markets that Felicia was talking about, having that consumer who is dedicated to festivals, who's spending hundreds of dollars a year going to music festivals and seeing electronic music being spun on a DJ computer or on digital soundboards. Now, what's so interesting about this is that festivals are not new. They've been around for decades and just have recently come to light, especially with this specific demographic. So what we've chosen to do is incorporate this with the race to really bring together not only attracting that new demographic, but keeping true to the demographic that NASCAR already appeals to. We don't want to alienate current fans. We want to bring in new fans and see how they interact and hopefully enhance everyone's experience. Now, what we would like to do, as I mentioned, is track the journey from start to finish. So that is through sharing. As I mentioned, millennials are more apt to share anything and everything they can. And frankly, millennials, research shows, trust personal recommendations and online reviews more than they trust most anything else. So it's a very advantageous way. The more sharing we get, the more positive reviews we get, the more positive response we get. It's really a circular motion. So if we take a look at Finish Fest, I'll tell you a little bit about the way it's structured and then a little bit about why the impact would be so strong. So we know from previous experience that avid NASCAR fans arrive at the race when gates open. They're ready to go. They want to tailgate, they want to socialize, and hey, you know what? That fits our target demographic perfectly. I just don't think our target demographic knows that yet. So that's where the Kentucky Speedway really has it in here. By bringing these two populations together, two populations, yes, different in age and in interest, but have similar values and similar wants when they go to such a social event, we really have the opportunity to bring two groups together to make one big, fun event. So what Finish Fest is it starts with two up-and-coming EDM, or electronic dance music DJs. Now we'll have two up-and-coming artists start off the afternoon. One will hit the stage at 2:30, another at 5, running until 7, giving fans just enough time to get to their seats in order for the start of the big race. And through social media leading up to this point, we'll have given fans the opportunity to win unique VIP opportunities, which you can't help but brag about, hopefully on social media. Now, when you get to the race, you'll have the opportunity to experience the early side of Finish Fest, but then you'll also get to the race. Now, what's more exciting than cheering on your favorite driver as they squeal up past the start line on the bumpiest track in the country? I mean, for me, that sounds like a great experience, and I'm a millennial. You know, I am the target market that Kentucky Speedway is trying to get, and so are my peers. And this is a critical point for the Speedway. We may get people in the door for that initial concert and that initial festival idea, but how do we get them engaged at the race? And this is where Kentucky Speedway really has to come in and hit the nail on the head, because if you can capture me, I'm yours. But if you can't, I'm probably not coming back, and I'm telling my friends not to either. So selling the ticket really starts with digital advertising. It's important to us, especially because we acknowledge how soon the upcoming event is, July 9th. Doesn't mean that our influence can't be just as important. So So by utilizing Facebook and Twitter ads, we'll be able to target college students just like me who are consistently connected. By utilizing Pandora and the electronic music station, we'll be able to geo-track local individuals who have a probability of being interested in electronic music and festivals thereafter. And as we've already heard from Felicia, those by trend are repeat consumers. As she mentioned, she has to go to at least 5 a year. And then we'll also take ads on Match.com to attract people like Brendan, who are really looking for a good time and maybe are looking for a festival environment to do so. Now, after the race, just because cars cross the finish line does not mean that the race is over. Afterward, there will be the headliner. Can you imagine taking a selfie with Ben Rhodes while you listen to Steve Aoki? I mean, for me, I would buy a ticket to that, and I'm a millennial, so I feel like we're on a good track here, and not just the racetrack. So the whole idea of Finish Fest is to take the journey from start to finish, and to use social media to see all those posts, and to be able to generate this content time and time again to result in more tweets, more favorites, more shares, more opinions, and more circular motion that will lead to more interest, more ticket sales, and more revenue. I'll hand it off to Brendan now, who will talk a little bit more about the logistics and how it all comes together.
Thanks, Brielle. Okay, so we have this, sounds like a pretty great idea, but if it doesn't work financially, I mean, it has no wheels. There's no point in even talking about it. So all these promotions that Brielle are talking about, this directed promotional content, we believe is going to draw about 10,000 people to the event for the first year, so 2015. If we charge $80 a ticket, for $20 of which will be the concert, $59 of which will be the actual race ticket, on a conservative level, then we can assume that we'll get around $780,000 of revenue. Now, keep in mind, this is just the cheapest ticket. There are also higher seat categories that would sell well with our fans as well. So definitely an opportunity for higher income there. When you look at the expenses, you have two sides of it. The operational, the promotional. Operational, stage, booking the events, perimeters, things of that sort. Marketing. You have the promotional stuff that Brielle just talked about. Totaling about $160,000. So we're sort of mixing up our marketing spend here. The first year will be $160,000, second year $190,000. All of this culminates in a return ratio of about 5, which is well over that 4-to-1 ratio that the case was hoping for. Now, as great as that is, this needs to be consistent. How can we get this for the next year? So as we look at an increased marketing spend, if we can retain about 10% of our customers, which we believe is very conservative, we can get about 12,000 people out to the next event. More money for spending, more money for operations, all that good stuff. We're still coming out to a return ratio of about 5-to-1. Now, as great as this is, the first 2 years are taken care of, that's fantastic. But what about the long term? How is this setting up Kentucky Speedway for long-term success? Well, if we look at the net present value of new millennial fans, if we retain 10%, which again we believe is very conservative, 1 out of every 10 people have such a good experience that they're willing to come back, we trust the product a bit more than that. But for argument's sake, 10%, we get about $1,000 in new revenue the next year as a result of the previous year's race. That's all well and good, but if they don't keep coming back, it's not very much money in the long term. But what if we create such an experience that they keep coming back, and they don't stop coming back, and they bring their kids with them every time they come back? That creates a totally different net present value of around $4 million just for that 10%. Now, we think that is transformational for the industry. We think that if you can connect with those millennials, and we believe the product will, that you can create long, large revenue streams in the future that will set the sport up for great success, and more importantly, Kentucky Motor Speedway up for great success. So, we're at this point now where we can see 10 years into the future. This program sounds pretty cool. We need to build off of it as years come along. But the most important thing is we're at the starting line of a big race, a race to win the millennial fan over. And we believe that this program and the subsequent programs that will build off of it will be the catalyst to get us the closest to that finish line and winning the millennial race. At this time, I'd like to invite my teammates up and we'll take any questions you may have.
Very good job. Very, very good job. It was very entertaining to listen to, as in the clearly selected the millennials and that type of event goer. Just quickly, if you could touch on, in the case study, there were some other segments that were referenced. Was there any conversation including those, or was there any thought to, should those be included in the study, or was it just clearly defined you had to go after these segments?
Yeah, so the segments that we thought about, we did go across, we were like, all right, maybe we should target like females, maybe we should target other people, but we felt like millennials were so different. A millennial who's 18 years old is completely different from a millennial who is 30 years old. So we felt like it was such a wide gap that it should be segmented and not considered just one big general millennial category.
Go ahead. I have two things. While I think that the idea of the Finish Fest was really a neat idea, the start to finish hashtag, aren't there already concerts and things going on before the races anyway? So how, one, are you going to put something in a time slot that's already being committed to? And two, if you're going to do concurrent events, how are you going to differentiate between them?
Yeah, so we looked at the logistics of it, and we don't think sound is going to be an issue crossing over. There's over 100,000 people there, and it's already segmented out. Like, they have a family area. This is going to be the millennial area. So we don't think that adding a different area is going to harm it at all, that they're not going across
So you're going to
paths.
have 2 concerts, 3 concerts going on at the same time?
Yeah, so one will be in the back, there you go. This pink area right here will be where we'll call it the millennial concert is at. And this is pre-race, where the other concert's at. We've got a 100,000 person grandstand in between. In this concert, we plan on targeting the sound north, so they're not competing.
My other question is, thank you for clarifying that, is how does this specifically relate to making the Kentucky Speedway, how does it differentiate the Kentucky Speedway from other speedways?
Well, personally, I mean, I've been to Daytona a few times, and Daytona's great and everything. It's got the tradition and all that. I haven't come across many raceways that have something that's this targeted to millennials, but not just targeted to millennials. Like you mentioned, there are other concerts and things going on, but this is targeted to making them stay and keeping them at the event and keeping them excited about being at the event. So we believe that, you know, the 2 concerts will draw them to the event, and then the headlining concert will encourage them to stay. What are they going to do when they're there? They're going to watch the race. And we believe that when they watch the race, they'll be so enamored by the product on the track that they'll fall in love with the sport of racing, and the concert going and that sort of stuff will be, you know, sort of a side, you know, I guess, hobby, but the racing will really be what they fall in love with.
How does this concept help drive media ratings for Kentucky Speedway?
It's going to interest the social conversation. I'm attending and I'm tweeting about it, I'm telling my friends, and millennials have this thing, and it was a Verizon commercial, fear of missing out on hockey. Millennials have that, it's fear of missing out on anything. They want to know where everyone's at and what they're doing. And if Brendan's at Finish Fest and I'm not there and he's tweeting about it, and it's too late for me to go, I'm going to watch the event. He's going to tell me about how good the event was.
From that perspective as well, we believe that success breeds success. So a successful event will deem another successful event. And from that point, the concert, being so different from NASCAR, like true fan base, they'll have non-traditional media outlets covering the concert that may, you know, help expand the reach of the NASCAR event itself.
Thanks.
Just to follow up on a question by Sid, differentiate the story between Kentucky Speedway and Daytona. If you had it sum it up in 2 sentences, what's the story here that would drive the millennials?
Well, the story here is the concert. The concert is what's going to get them into the door. The concert is, we know who you are, we know what you're interested in, and we have exactly what you need, and we're offering it to you. And then when they're in, they see the NASCAR event, they fall in love with it because it actually is what they're looking for in terms of data and
The
demographics.
NASCAR's not the story.
The NASCAR is not the story to begin, but we believe that with the way the product is set in the structure of the concerts, that they will fall in love with the NASCAR as a side product, and within a few years, the concerts won't even be the driving force. It will be the racing at Kentucky.
And just to jump off that a little bit, as we mentioned, millennials are hard to capture. Once you lose me, I'm gone. So if you can capture me there that first time, it doesn't matter if you're getting me in the door for a concert I really want to go to. If you can somehow attract me to come come back and watch people drive around a track a million times, something I've never been interested in, then you've got me. I'm gonna tweet about it, I'm gonna talk about it. 73% of millennials feel FOMO or are more motivated to go to an event if they see friends talking about it on social media. And frankly, I know I speak for myself, but I have over 2,000 friends on Facebook and less than 200 people on my phone contact list. So I'm feeling FOMO on behalf of people I don't really even know. So it's that sharing, it's that continuous updating and seeing what others are doing and seeing that fun time. That's going to get people there. It's what we do within the confines of the race that keeps us coming back.
One question on budget. Can you put this up as well? The concerts, obviously, the draw, totally get that, gets them there. Hopefully they've been fall in love with NASCAR. But you had mentioned you have a couple up and coming EDM DJs.
Yep.
Then you have a Steve Aoki type performer as a headline. And that line item, I'm assuming all is in Finish Fest, including production,
Yes, so,
ballot fees. Do we think it's feasible to get someone like that?
yes, so actually, if you flip to the last page in the infographic we gave you, we break down the pricing categories, and included in that is the cost of booking the talent. We went through a research website that actually had the prices for the talent. Unfortunately, we couldn't call them and ask them if they were available because of the no phone policy. But they did have the prices there available, and they were accurate as we looked with a couple other websites as well.
Just curious, how did you get to the very specific projection of 9,798 tickets sold?
Yeah, so let's go ahead to our social media slide. So I looked at each social media site, looked at their CPM or their cost per impression, and we determined what our return rate on that would be. So for Facebook, I think we're getting like 150,000 people. We said we can convert 1% of those. That's how many customers we're getting. So we started playing around with the numbers and seeing things that we were comfortable with that were conservative estimates. Because, quite frankly, we could have said, hey, we're going to convert 50% of our people from Facebook ads, but that's not realistic. So we went with 1%, in some cases 0.25%, to convert those numbers, and balanced it to maximize our budget without going over. And that's why it's a really random number. And when we were planning, we had said, maybe 10,000 people, and it was great that it worked out that way. And we had to get there because we had to have 4-to-1 return. So there was a lot of back and forth of, we can't pay this much for talent, or we need to scale back on something else to make sure we had the 4-to-1 return, and we're profitable, and stayed under the $160,000 for the first year. Which actually was $150,000, and we had to borrow from year 2, so couldn't make everything happen.
Do you consider those 9,790 all new incremental ticket holders?
Yes.
All of them?
Yeah, at most I would say maybe 5% are not new, and we think this is going to get them in and make them new fans. So we treat that all as new revenue.
So you're bringing 10,000 new fans to a track that already has parking and traffic problems. How are you addressing that concern?
We call this a high-class problem. They have the capacity. They have 30,000 empty seats approximately, and they've packed that house before, and they've found places to park. They own over 100 acres? Over 1,000 acres. I think if we can tell them, look, we're bringing 10,000 more people in, we're going to steal a lot, they can bring another bulldozer in. That was what they mentioned when they were constructing it. They have the land. It's what can we do to fill it?
That doesn't necessarily get over the perception of parking problems, though. And I think that's a bigger deal than actual physical space to park. So how do you get over that perception of bringing all those extra people to the racetrack?
So one of the things that we considered are what are current fans doing and what can we do to differentiate this? So we can understand that really avid NASCAR fans, they're getting there at 8 o'clock in the morning when the gates open. They want to start their day early. We have campers who are sold out for the season. There's barely any spots left after having spoken with some of the gentlemen from the Kentucky Speedway. So their loyal fan base is there. By not starting that concert until 2:30, we're at least differentiating that. So we're not asking people get here at 8 o'clock when everyone else is getting here. We're saying get here mid-afternoon. So even those people who are already coming to the racetrack, they've got their time to get in, to get settled before the next wave of people would arrive. And then on the back end, the same is true. So perhaps the current population that's and maybe they are, but maybe they're not. And so if that's the case, maybe they're leaving right after the race, but Steve Aoki goes on at 11 and he spins till 1. So we're taking a look at all those incremental people we're bringing in, and we're saying, you know what, everyone else is gonna head home, we're gonna stay here. So the congestion that is, the perception that will bring all this congestion in, the way it's staged and the way that it's broken up time-wise, it'll really allow for pretty easy transitions between groups that are arriving and when they're leaving. And it might even actually break up everyone leaving at the same time.
All right, judges, that unfortunately wraps up our 10 minutes, so again, congratulations.